So, the other day I was in the shower regretting all my life choices after making the drawings for the previous video. So I started thinking about what I could do with Monster Hunter and Pokemon to redeem myself. One thing was clear. I wasn't going to repeat the same video because that would bore me. I wanted something refreshing, and after getting shampoo in my eyes, it suddenly hit me. Why I hadn't thought about fusing them all this time? I feel like both of these franchises have amazing monster designs that could work really well together in a fusion. Since they focus on different aspects, they could complement each other beautifully. So with an interesting idea in my head and one irritated eye from the shampoo, I got out of the shower, dried off, got dressed, and got to work. The first step was deciding which monsters I was going to fuse. As always, I didn't want to pick them myself since I like leaving some things to chance. So I decided to put 6 Monster Hunter monsters on an online roulette and take note of the first 3 that came up. Then I do the same with Pokemon and fuse them in order. With that in mind, I picked 6 Monster Hunter monsters: Anjanath, Rathalos, Diablos, Barroth, Yakulu, and Tobi Kadachi. Since my friend is a huge Pokemon fan, I asked her to pick 6 Pokemon, and she chose Gallade, Toxtricity, Luxray, Huion, Dragonair, and Mimikyu. I opened an online roulette and entered the Monster Hunter monster's name. Once everything was set, I spun the wheel, and the first one that came up was Tobi Kadachi. I wrote it down and spun it again. The next one was Anjanath, which I was really happy about. Finally, I spun the wheel one last time, and the third and final monster was Barroth. In my opinion, I was really happy with these picks. So the real danger now was getting bad combination with the Pokemons. I quickly entered the names, spun the wheel, and the first one that came up was Dragonair, which I had to fuse with Tobi Kadachi. I really liked this match, considering both are reptiles. I spun the wheel again, and this time it landed on Luxray, which I would fuse with Anjanath. This seemed like a fun and interesting fusion that had a lot of potential. Finally, I spun one last time for the third Pokemon and it landed on Mimikyu. Okay, this was definitely going to be a challenge. A Barroth fuse with a Mimikyu? I had no idea how I was going to pull that off, but I was sure I'd find a way. So, to sum it up, these were the fusions: Tobi Kadachi with Dragonair, Anjanath with Luxray, Barroth with Mimikyu. With everything said, I got to work. The first thing I knew for sure was that I didn't want to mess up again. So I needed to warm up properly and understand the designs. I took my time sketching Dragonair, different types of snakes, and Tobi Kadachi in my sketchbook, which also served as a warm-up. Once I was familiar with the designs, I opened CllipStudioPaint and started creating silhouettes based on what I had in mind. With a solid silhouette, I moved on to a rough sketch where I could clearly define what I was aiming for, and then refined it into a final drawing that I could eventually paint. But what I focused on the most was identifying the key elements of each design and how I could merge them in a harmonious way. To summarize, the most striking features of Dragonair were its color palette, the wing-like ears, its tail, the blue pearls, and its horn. From Tobi Kadachi, the standout traits were its gliding membranes, red eyes, jaws, fur scales textures, and arms. Most of these elements were pretty compatible, except for one. If you've been paying attention, you probably already noticed the biggest difference. One of them has no legs, while the other has 4. So, I went for a middle ground and gave it 2 legs. That being said, this was by far the easiest fusion since both were reptiles, with blue color palettes. Honestly, I was relieved that the first one was the simplest. It let me warm up in a comfortable way. And well, here's the final result. What do you think? Personally, I love it. I feel like I did a great job blending them together. And you can clearly see where each design element comes from. But I have to say, in my opinion, the next one too turned out even better. And now you will see what I mean because up next is my favorite fusion, Anjanath, one of my favorite monsters in the game, with Luxray, one of my favorite Pokemon from Gen 4. I started the same way as before, with some sketches to study their design and shapes. These include a few sketches of lions, since to me, Luxray closely resembles a lion. I began exploring ideas with silhouettes to see what worked and what didn't, because sometimes an idea might seem great in your head, but once you put it on paper, it just doesn't work. Once I had my idea materialized, I move on to the rough sketch, and honestly, I'm really happy with how I tackled this one. What I love most about Anjanath is its T-Rex body and its head, so I decided that the colors, textures, and details would be taken from Luxray, and I absolutely loved that approach. Most importantly, both creators are imposing and intimidating, and I wanted to reflect that energy in the fusion. A little trick I used was playing with perspective and posing. I designed it so that the viewer looks at it from slightly below, creating the illusion of a larger, more towering presence. Also, since the color palette is dark, I took advantage of that by making the glowing red eyes stand out even more, adding to its intimidating aura. And here's the final result. What do you think? Personally, this one is my favorite. I love how it could work as an alternative version of Anjanath, where instead of being fire type, it's electric. I'm really proud of this concept since it had a certain level of difficulty, but I think I pulled it off really well. And now, we've reached the most difficult fusion of them all, Barroth and Mimikyu. Alright, first thing I did was the same as before, sketches to absorb as much information about both creators as possible. Once that was done, I started experimenting with silhouettes, and right away I knew this would be a tough one. I mean, just looking at them, you can tell there's no obvious way to merge them, and I love that. It meant I had to think outside the box. Up until this point, I had been following the same process, identifying key design elements and merging them. That approach was solid and necessary, but it wasn't enough, and then it hit me. Why not fuse them through concept rather than just design? Mimikyu is a Pokemon that disguises itself as Pikachu, and I love that idea. So, if I were to fuse it with Barroth, why not make a Mimikyu that imitates a Barroth instead of a Pikachu? With that in mind, I did my best to bring that concept to life, both in the design and the colors. This new approach made the whole process so much easier. It turned from a hard challenge into a fun and easy creative one. Of course, I still had to include some recognizable traits from both creators, like Barroth's signature head, while keeping Mimikyu's tail, drawn face, and eye holes in the cloth. Anyway, without drawing this out too much, here's the final result. What do you think? Personally, I love it. It's my second favorite, and I adore how cute it turned out. I also think this one has something special that makes it stand out from the others. I'm really proud of the approach I took, and I feel like the final result reflects that perfectly. So, out of all of them, which one is your favorite and why? I love to hear your thoughts in the comments. As for me, I'd go with the Anjanath fusion, though it's a tough call because I really like the Barroth one too. Anyway, sending hugs to everyone, and I hope you like it. Bye!